Started. Thanks for joining us today for Home Safety Visit Tools with Vision 2020. Getting us started today is Jim Crawford. He's the project manager for Vision 2020. Jim, all you.
Thank you, Tim. Welcome, everyone. As Tim said, morning or afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're in. I'll kick things off here today by saying a couple of things up front. First of all, these webinars are brought to you by a great relationship that we have with the International Association of Fire Chiefs. I want to thank them for their support for the Vision 2020 project, and in particular, the great support that we get to do these webinars. But the way that we look at them is more or less an informal way for us to be able to get information out to our partners in the field, partners in crime, if you will, but all of the devoted folks out there who are following the efforts of Vision 2020. And so today in particular is a challenging webinar because we've got some videos that we want to show and the online guide that we want to walk you through. So bear with us as we give verbal prompts to Tim to advance it. It's going to work better if Tim keeps control of all of the slides throughout this presentation. When we get to the appropriate points, I'm going to introduce the primary presenters, Mary Kay Appy of Appy and Associates, and the Strategic Partnership Manager for Vision 2020, and Peg Paul, the President of Peg Paul and Associates. But for now, I want to say that this project arose out of a partnership with different organizations, and in particular the Washington Fire Marshals Association. And I want to do a tip of the hat to Phil Shingman, who participated in some original studies with CDC international studies that led us to the conclusion that home safety visits were one of the more effective prevention tools that we could promote. And doing so and demonstrating that they worked in the United States was brought about by the initial grant application for the Washington State Association of Fire Marshals, and that led to this particular project. The beauty of Vision 2020 is that it is not an organization and it is not one organization, which means that any part of the strategic plan that was put forward can be picked up by individual organizations and carried out, and we collaborate with one another. So that's where Washington State Fire Marshals and Vision 2020 became partners, if you will, from the beginning. And later, the Friendship Veterans Fire Engine Company from Alexandria, Virginia, joined as well to add some value to the home safety visit tools. Tim, if you'll advance to the next slide, please. It basically fits in with the strategic plan for Vision 2020. Just a reminder to folks that these strategies were envisioned to help fill what was perceived to be gaps and to avoid replicating fine efforts that were already underway. For the new people, and there are many of them on this list today, I'm grateful for that. We won't spend a lot of time talking about Vision 2020 other than saying there are some critical issues already being addressed by others, NFPA, U.S. Fire Administration, International Code Council, many others out there, and so these strategies were designed to fill gaps and to put our energy into productive directions that would add our shoulder to the wheel, so to speak. And in particular, this home safety visit fits into a larger strategy for Community Risk Reduction Strategy 3, led by Bill Kehoe and Victor Stagnero. Bill Kehoe with the Institution of Fire Engineers, Victor Stagnero of the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, and a variety of task group members. So these subsets fall into those categories. Tim, if you'll advance to the next slide, one of the things that we want you to keep in mind for home safety visits in particular, because they are such a critical part of community risk reduction efforts, they are not one and the same. Community risk reduction is a broader concept, an integrated approach to risk management for communities that integrates emergency operations and prevention strategies at a strategic level. Regardless, we have sufficient data to demonstrate that home safety visits are one of the more effective prevention tools, and so if you forget everything else about what's being talked about here, If you remember homesafetyvisit.org, that's going to take you to the right links where you can follow up with this information, and maybe more important, what we envision is being able to add to these tools over a period of time. You'll be able to find them on Washington Fire Marshal's page, on Vision 2020's page, and I'll give that to you at the end of the presentation. But if you remember homesafetyvisit.org, that will take you to the proper place for these materials. So I hope that helps to kick things off. Tim, if you'll advance to the next slide, please. I want to introduce Mary Kay Appy, a very good friend and one of the well-known professionals in her own right, president of Appy and Associates, to deal with this issue of home safety visits and the online guide that originated with the Washington Fire Marshals, but has grown into a much more active partnership between our organizations. Mary Kay, if you don't mind, take it away.
Thank you, Jim. And next slide, Tim. And hello, everyone. I'm going to pause on this slide for just a minute and go into a little bit of the background of the rationale for why we decided such a tool as a home guide would be useful, what's behind the thinking. And I do want to start off by saying that, in my opinion, this project really represents what's best about Vision 2020. As Jim said, it's a real collaboration. Working together, we identified a need for a new resource to better prepare U.S. fire departments to conduct more and more effective home safety visits as part of their local community risk reduction strategy. None of us had enough money to do this on our own, but by joining together some of the Washington State Association of Fire Marshals, funding from AFG, with some funding from a generous private sector sponsor of Vision 2020, we were able to put together what we needed to create the tools you're about to see. We're calling this new resource the Fire Department How-To Guide to Effective Home Visits. As Jim said, it got kicked off in Washington State based on long experience they have had out there with many communities in the state doing home safety visits and doing them really well. Vision 2020 has actually participated in a lot of the work going on in Washington State, but also in many other communities. In fact, over the last 5 years, we've done 5 sets of trials leading up to 33 fire departments engaged in our orbit, and resulting in more than 13,000 home safety visits. So the guide that we're going to be talking about today, the video that goes with it, and even the in-home tools that Peg Paul will be presenting, these all stem from a lot of actual experience in the field and a lot of input from many of you on this call today. I had the wonderful job assignment of leading the team that blended the Washington State experience with Vision 2020's national experience. Our goal was to create a robust online tool, a free tool, that would be easy to use, include lots of links to other resources, and we'll focus on that a little bit at the end, where you can see our generous partners from many, many other organizations that were willing to say, we've created something that would help someone do a home visit, here you go, so we could kind of put it all in one place. And then we tapped Peg Paul and Associates, including the very talented Julie Reynolds, to help us with the content development of the guide, the design, the production of the guide, and the video. And we decided to add this cool video component to the guide, and we chose to showcase Gwinnett County Fire and Emergency Services as an excellent model of a fire department that's doing some really super work in home safety visits. We traveled there to film an actual home visit in an actual home, and if the technology gods are with us today, you're going to be able to see that in just a minute. So you can tell this was a really big project. It truly took a village to bring it to fruition, but today it's my privilege to introduce to you the new online Fire Department How-To Guide to Effective Home Safety Visits. You're the first audience to see this live online, and as I say, you may be the first audience as well to see the movie. And then later in the program, Peg Paul will introduce you to some additional free resources to help making educating the residents you're visiting easier than ever before. So let's get started. Jim shared the address, homesafetyvisit.org, where you can go back at your leisure and review all this. But Tim is going to help me now by going to the guide itself, and he's going to drive and I'm going to direct. I'm going to be his backseat driver. I will tell you that this is just what we have for now. Vision 2020 just received a grant from the Motorola Foundation, so we know we will have some resources to enhance it, build out, revise it in going forward. But here we are for now. This is the home page. When you go to Home Safety Visit, you click homesafetyvisit.org and click on the guide. This is what you'll see as the home page. To the left, you'll see all the chapters. One of the things we wanted to do was we put a lot of information together, but we didn't want this to be this huge book that many people may not want to read. We wanted to chapterize it. We wanted to put it online so that you could kind of scroll around. And very importantly, as you look at these tools today, think about, please, not only how they might help you do your home visits, but hopefully you're all out there trying to train others within your departments, within your agencies. You want to bring on other people to do home visits with you. And we're hoping that this guide, the video, and the other tools will help you go back to your community and share this best practice knowledge. Now, Tim, if you'll go to the introduction, so we're talking a little bit about why home visits, who in the community might be most at risk, what are the risk factors for people dying in a fire. Again, we're trying to take the science, make it simple, but make sure that you've got all the information you need to even sell the idea of doing a home safety visit program in your community. We want firefighters, especially line firefighters, to see this as part of their job. And in fact, Jim shared this wonderful anecdote from a fire marshal. I think his name is Baumgarten, maybe. I haven't had the pleasure to meet him. But he was telling Jim, we've been playing the wrong game. You know, we've been playing football where the emergency services guys, you know, are in the advance and they're the offense, but then they go off and defense takes the field. We really should be playing basketball, where the team, sometimes they're on offense, sometimes on defense. We're all together doing what is necessary to reach our communities and keep them safer. You get a flavor of this as you go through the introduction. Now, Tim, please go to laying the groundwork. Thank you. Here are some upfront things that you and the teams you have in your community will work together, we hope, to answer some basic questions. What's your goal for your home safety visit program? Jim mentioned our friend Phil Shaneman, who's been so influential in bringing this incredible concept from the global work he did and helping us understand it in America and, you know, actually begin to try it out here in America. And I read in his book, Global Concepts in Residential Fire Safety, there was a quote that really stuck with me. I'm just going to share that quote with you. Of all the best practices identified in this study, one stands out. To reduce fire casualties in the home, the British Fire Service is visiting large numbers of high-risk households to do fire safety inspections and risk reductions, especially to ensure they have a working smoke detector. So things, really this kind of forms the basic strategy. Yes, we're trying to reach out, especially in the beginning, to those at highest risk. And Tim, if you'll go to identifying high-risk areas, you'll see this guide will help you figure out in your community who those might be. So first you start by planning, then you really kind of use resources, your own data, your own incidents. Clearly you're going to be looking at the very young, the very old. Of course you're going to be looking at those at low income levels. This guide is designed to help you work with your team and your coalitions to think through your strategy. And Phil Shaneman will often say, of course, go where the need is greatest. You'll be able to demonstrate the most success quickest if we make sure that the homes we're visiting first are those at highest risk. But because we know that a fire can happen to anyone and anywhere, ultimately, the ideal is to reach everyone with a visit. Some need it more than others, but it's really a message we'd like to bring to everyone. That's a huge job. So this guide will help you think about the baby steps it takes to eventually reach a very ambitious goal. Okay, Tim, we can move on to the next chapter here. It's really important when you're thinking about entering someone's home, especially in America. I mean, we're very protective of our private space. It's not easy. No one's going to ever tell you that doing a home safety visit program is easy, but it's crucial. And here in this chapter, we talk about what will help you actually enter the homes. Many fire departments are doing this already. They're using really creative strategies, some of which you'll be able to find through the resource section. I know my friends at Johns Hopkins, the Johns Hopkins Center for Injury Research and Policy, through an AFG grant, are doing a demonstration project in Phoenix, Arizona. They're partnering nurses, trained nurses from the Nurse Family Partnership Program who work with low-income first-time mothers, and the nurses are identifying their clients who have new babies, who lack smoke alarms, and bam, in comes Phoenix Fire to provide those and install those free of charge. Peg Carson and I just got back a few days ago from a training, again through AFG, and this time through the Michigan Public Health Institute, where we're training 5 communities to work with second grade classrooms and identify homes of little kids that need smoke alarms. We know in Tucson it's a promotoris model where trained community leaders are doing the installs. So there are many, many ways to address this. Our guide does not dictate to you, you must do it this way. We're simply giving you examples. I'm noticing on the right, Take the Fire Safety Challenge. Our good friend Becky Booker in Minnesota has probably done more home safety visits than anyone on earth. Her resources and tools are here, and she was actually one of the many people who helped us create this guide. So we're trying to weave all these best practices together, but do it in a way that makes it very simple for you. Tim, next chapter. Here are some ideas of organizing your program using really good strategies, SMART goals, again, writing them down, very straightforward really, but this helps you organize your team back at the ranch. And then in the next section, we get into the nuts and bolts. What do you need? Yeah, the stock tools, one more chapter down, Tim. Yep. Kind of your shopping list. Here's beautiful Sylvia from Gwinnett County showing her this is the toolkit that they take when they're doing their home visits. It was so well organized. I was very impressed when we got there. They've got, they've got the drill, they've got the alarms, of course, they've got the screws, they've got it all really organized for their teams to have at the ready when they go in. And so here's your kind of either your shopping list or your planning list for getting into the homes. Okay, next chapter. I'm hoping that you will all go back and enjoy all the details of this. Then we talk about, okay, here we're starting to get a little more serious about actually what do you do when you get in those homes. And the video we'll show you in just a minute will kind of show you step by step what happens. A lot of these photos come actually from our video shoot. But background information for the installers. Scroll down a little bit more, Tim, so we can see. The idea is, of course, you're going into the homes, you're testing all of the alarms. One of the upfront decisions you will make is what kind of alarms are we going to install, how many will we be able to install. There are some recommendations in this guide. You'll find our Vision 2020 recommendation is to install enough alarms to bring that home up to code. Not everyone does it this way. You don't have to do it this way. It'll be your choice. But we feel that after you've done all the hard work of identifying these homes and actually gaining entrance into the homes. That's really the tough part. Let's do the job fully and make sure that when we leave, those homes have enough new working smoke alarms to protect the family. And we are also recommending a combination of ionization and photoelectric alarms. We are recommending the installation of the long life or 10-year smoke alarms. Again, based on research, Tucson did a nice little study. They had installed initially the 9-volt battery alarms, and then when they did their follow-up, found out that many of the alarms already were not operable. When they switched to long life 10-year alarms and did follow-up, not only were they operable, but they were still in place. So that little study plus others have really led us to conclude that for these high-risk home installations, the long life alarms are the way to go. Okay, so then let's get into the model of home visits. Very straightforward. Throughout this whole document, you can see live links to other tools, and I just want to give a shout out to NFPA, which has a really neat little planning and implementing a successful smoke alarm program guide. Again, very straightforward. We know we have that tool. This guide goes into a bit more detail, a bit more links, but I can tell you the NFPA guide is also excellent, so please look at that. And then we have, scroll down a little bit more, calling out some very, the basics throughout so you don't forget how documentation of what alarms, where, how many, will really help us document our success in the future. If you, let's say one of the families you visit has a fire, if you can't prove that the alarm came from your program, you can't use that as a mechanism for building your program. So we talk a lot about documentation. And then in the covering basic safety information and talking to residents, here is important information about the education piece. Once you're in the home, what topics are we going to cover? Up front, yes, go ahead, Tim, you can click on covering basic fire safety information. There we go. One of the things that's a big decision for folks is how long are we going to stay in the home? And I've heard folks tell us anywhere from 7 minutes to an hour and a half. In our guide, we are using as a model a recommended amount of time of somewhere between 15 to 30 minutes. You can accomplish more in a shorter amount of time if you have more people on your team doing different things. But we believe that you need a little bit of time to say hello and establish some rapport. I will also give you an important tip that we also recommend that you have at least 2 people on your team when you're doing these home visits, even more if possible. It's always a good idea, if you can, to bring someone from the community you're visiting with you. Perhaps that person will translate, perhaps that person will just be a trusted face that will allow your residents to feel even more comfortable having you in the home. But you really do want to take a team approach. This will help you get prepared for what am I going to say, how many topics can I cover. I know Gwinnett County does an interesting thing. They have someone scouting as you're going through the home with the residents. They know they can't stay there forever, so they want to prioritize looking around, what are the messages I most need to communicate about before we leave. So again, if you have someone installing the alarms, someone doing the education, perhaps a third person doing the triage, what do we want to talk about, and maybe serving as the one who documents things. These are all good strategies for a good solid team. All righty, moving on. Of course, it couldn't be a Vision 2020 guide without a lot of thought about a program evaluation. Here's a chapter for that. Anything I'm telling you and anything in this guide has links to more information if you need it. And in fact, Vision 2020 has a great program, educational program just on evaluation. But what we wanted to do was simplify, give you just the basics, and you'll find that in this guide right here. Oh, and a shout out there, that's Chief Steve Ristich from Gwinnett County. One of the big metrics and success metrics identified early on is you really need a champion in your department, the chief. Steve is one of those for sure. Commitment to home safety visits is a great strategy, starts at the top and goes all the way through that department. Not every department is like that in the very beginning, so we're hoping that making home visits easier with a guide like this will help you maybe take baby steps there too and bring on people who want to do it at first and then use your successes to build. Because I tell you, in the work that Vision 2020 has been doing, we're finding any department can do this. Small departments, large departments, in between departments. We're finding that the firefighters who get involved tend to really like it. Even if they weren't sure about it in the beginning, they tend to like it. It's immediate feedback from the community that what you're doing matters to them. So we've gotten so many positive reasons to do home visits. We're hoping this guide just makes it easier. Okay, and Tim, I know we're getting to the end here. Just about, right, the conclusion basically is, let's think about home visits as a basic part of doing business in American fire departments today. This is just probably the smartest, the best, the most cost-effective and with immediate return on investment in terms of reducing risk in the community. Let's get everybody on board with us, even though we know it may take us a little time. Looking at these resources, go ahead, Tim, and scroll. Just the examples of many, many of our very generous partners who helped us with this project and are willing to share the great resources they have. Again, all in one place for you for easy access. You can see NFPA was great. They have lots of tip sheets and stuff that are just a click away, as are all of these resources here. And we're trying as well to help you find, oh, Tim, scroll back a little bit. I just wanted to say one thing about pro-literacy under P. Many of you know my personal commitment, and many of you have it as well, to reaching those who may not read or communicate well in English. Pro-literacy has made available some new tools that were partially funded by this project, and they're specifically designed to work with people who may not read or understand English. It's kind of a talking guide with graphic drawings that will help you in the simplest of terms explain what is the danger of smoke, why do you need smoke alarms, and there's also some resources on cooking safety. So those are the links that you see there, and Pro-Literacy has others as well. And then just below on the bottom, you'll see the Spring Lake Park, Blaine Mounds. That's Becky Booker. She's got a whole guide to the home visits they do, which are comprehensive ones. Becky really stays a long time with those families she visits and makes sure they're safe from a lot of different risks. So you have not only our resources, but specific examples of resources that have been effectively used and tested at the local level to give you ideas for your own programs. So if we can move now to the contributors, it's the last chapter, I think. Yes. Just a thank you to all of those. We hope we got you all. If we didn't, we apologize. We can add your name later. So many people, as I said, it really took a village to do this one, but we're excited about it. We're especially excited about getting it into your hands. And now, if you will please pop your popcorn and settle back in your easy chairs. For the very first time, we're going to try to show a 10-minute video that attempts to take everything in this guide we've just walked through and put it in a little easy visual thing you can share with others for your home safety visits. Go ahead, please, Tim.
Just real quick before we get started with the video, just like any video online, it may experience some buffering. We have it loaded up right now, but just in case it does start chopping in and out, if it gets too bad, we'll stop it. But and we'll share the link, the YouTube link as well. But I just want to give everybody a heads up. There's a chance it might be as good as first your connection and then in general
and if we get a sense that it really isn't working too well, we'll stop at midstream. But let's hope that the technology gods are with us.
Fingers crossed.
Hi, I'm Greg Rogers, Fire Marshal of South Kitsap Fire and Rescue in Washington State. This short video represents a gradual evolution of efforts by the Washington State Association of Fire Marshals to demonstrate that home safety visits can work in the United States. Years ago, our association received a fire prevention and safety grant to test the concept of improving public safety through fire department home visits and smoke alarm installation. We conducted the test in Washington and several other states, with programs in cities large and small. Our test confirmed what we've been learning from fire departments in the UK, Canada, and other countries for the past several years, that there is great value to community risk reduction programs that put line firefighters front and center, especially in home visit programs. We also confirmed the importance of data-driven public safety programs. The cities participated in the test used risk demographics and actual fire data to identify the communities where they would conduct home visits first. For me, that's probably the most important takeaway from the test, because we found that the home visits were exactly where they needed to be. More than half the homes we visited had no working smoke. visit your own home's smoke alarms work and not have the right answer.
As you know, the leading cause of the fires in our community usually start in the kitchen, so we do spend a little bit of extra time talking about cooking safety tips and habits in the kitchen.
Programming success. It also can help you open doors to high-risk residents who may otherwise not.
Mary Kay, did you want to pause it?
Yeah, I think we've got the idea. I'm sorry about the buffering, everybody. We thought this might be an issue, but I can assure you Peg, Paul & Associates does beautiful work, and the video itself is great. I really, really invite you to watch it again and share it with others. You'll see that we're featuring a partner model. American Red Cross is featured as the partner in this video. It was a real home we visited, and you got a glimpse of the fact that our audience in our residents in this case included a 60-year-old woman who was taking care of an 11-year-old grandson and a 1-year-old baby grandson and her 92-year-old mother who is in a wheelchair. So in addition to installing alarms in that home, the team also was concerned about tripping hazards in it, and in addition to talking about the smoke alarms and escape planning, they actually ran through a real drill. So it's a great little model, and I hope that you all will watch the movie again when you can see it on your own system and hopefully without the buffering. Thank you, Tim. And Jim, I think I'm going to just hand it over to you for our next step, and thank you all so much for your interest today. We love having you with us.
Thanks, Mary Kay. I appreciate that, and I'll add to apologies for the technology, but you can see the full video, and in fact it's intended to help you sell the program, and there's more than one way to do it. I'd just like to add that some jurisdictions even, well, let me say it this way. There's some departments who think, how am I going to find the time to do this? So I'd like to emphasize that in some places it is a partnership. You may be hearing from Red Cross. They have a huge initiative in this area. NFPA also does work, as does the Fire Administration, in these home safety visit arenas. So you may find other partners pressuring you as a fire department to participate, but there's also ways for you to reach out to other partners who are already doing home safety visits, as Tucson did with the HUD Healthy Homes Initiative and a private nonprofit there. So just food for thought. You can go to homesafetyvisits.org for that video to help you sell it. Right now we'd like to move into the other portion of the webinar and additional tools that are intended to help with home safety visits. You might find them useful elsewhere, but they are designed while you're in a home and actually work an original idea that came from Ed Camo and some visits that were being done in Massachusetts to say, if we have some of these high-risk audiences and we're trying to give them messages maybe on a tablet, we can give them some quick video and audio. So I don't want to say anything more about it. I want to introduce Peg Paul, the president of Peg Paul & Associates, who has done a great deal of work with Vision 2020. She also and her staff manage the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition, so Peg has a great deal of experience. In this case, worked with the Friendship Veterans Fire Engine Association in Virginia to develop some video tools. So Peg, would you take it away?
Fun to work with all of my friends. Using video can be very powerful and effective, and especially as you mentioned, Jim, and with Ed Camo's visits, when we live in a day with in an era with tablets and smartphones, and that makes it easier to bring tools like this into a home visit. So we developed an app to provide simple, quick, and easy to understand messages to supplement home visits. And Tim, if you can go to the next slide. First, we determined 4 high-risk topics, and we had the script reviewed by subject matter experts, and we had the folks at Pro-Literacy take a look at it as well. And at the end of all of them, we incorporated the Fire is Everyone's Fight theme throughout all the messages. The videos average about 3 minutes in length, so they're nice and short. And I'll just quickly go over the 4 videos, starting with Speed of Fire. It's our longest one. It's about 3.5 minutes long, and it's Fire is Fast, Plan for Everyone to Get Out. We let people know that house fires can be deadly in less than 3 minutes, and we show key information so that families can prepare an escape plan and have a meeting place. Our second video is Smoke Alarms, and that one is about 3 minutes long, and our theme is Where There Is Love, There is Smoke Alarms. And the messaging there is that we want to make sure that all homes always have working smoke alarms, that the family knows what they sound like, especially the children, that there's one on every level, every bedroom. We get a little bit into the types of smoke alarms and what to do if they're cooking in the kitchen and they set off alarm. So we really do put a lot in that 3 minutes, but we also do repeat the important messages. Cooking, that one's about just a little under 3 minutes long. Keep an eye on what you fry. The message is that cooking fires are the #1 cause of home fires and the #1 cause of home fire injuries. We encourage people to keep the range top clean, clear of items that can catch fire, that they should use timers, that they should stay in the kitchen and turn off the ignition source if they plan to leave. They should use caution when they're frying. We show different grease that is used in cooking, and how to put out a grease fire when cooking, using the lid, cover and smother, to not use water. Keep children at least 3 feet away. We show them how to actually use tape and do a kid-free zone. And we remind them that they should roll up their sleeves, that clothing can catch on fire. And finally, our heating message, that's about 3 minutes long. Heaters need space. We address space heaters, wood-burning stoves, fireplaces, furnaces, that you should keep things away from it, that you should turn off, except for obviously your furnaces, space heaters when you're not in the room, and that certain heaters need to be vented to prevent carbon monoxide. We show what a CO detector looks like, and we talk about making sure you have a door on your fireplace and keeping your chimney clean and inspected. So a lot of important information. Next slide, please, Tim. And these videos really can be used anywhere. What we did is we put it into an app so that it can be downloaded, and that way when you do your home visit, you don't have to be worried about being connected to the internet. Now, I do want to let you know that this is a very large app. It's a little under 1 gigabyte. So when you do download it, give it time, and that's because technically there are 16 little videos. We address the 4 safety messages, and I'll show you in a minute that we do them in 3 different languages and American Sign Language. So it's a lot of video in this one app. And like I said, the beauty of using an app is you don't have to be connected. And it is available on iPads and on other tablets, so you can either go to the App Store or you can go to the Google Store, and the keyword would be safety visits if you need to search for it. Next slide, Tim. So I mentioned the expert review, and these really are designed to reach anyone, and especially adults with low literacy skills. Like I said, Pro-Literacy did review these, and also English as a second language. Next slide. So once you download the app and you click on it, this is the first screen you will see, so that you have the option to click on English, American Sign Language, the Spanish version, or the Mandarin Chinese version. And next slide. I mentioned that each one averages about 3 minutes. And these really are a way to add emphasis on important messages. So I recommend take the time to look at all of these, and then you can determine how you want to use them during a visit. If you know that you're only going to have time to do smoke alarms, maybe start with the smoke alarm video and then check the smoke alarms or install them or whatever you need to do. So these videos really do supplement and help boost the visit. And as I mentioned, it does focus on high-risk topics and audiences. So next screen. Here's what will happen after you're on the first screen. If you choose English, then you can decide which safety message you want to show. And just know that if you clicked either the Spanish or the Mandarin Chinese, underneath where it says what the safety topics are, we also have those safety topics in that language. So now I don't want to show all 4 safety videos during this webinar. I hope you'll download the app and take a look yourself, but I do want to show you one of them, and that is the speed of fire video. And again, when you show video, it's compelling and it can be a little dramatic and really get your point across. So here we go with speed of fire. Okay, and now I'd like to just show a few minutes of the American Sign Language. And for this one, this will be the smoke alarm messaging. And Mary Kay, I know you may want to say a word about our title, Where There Is Love, There Is Smoke Alarms.
Thanks, Peg. Just briefly, many of you who have been following the work of Strategy 2 for Vision 2020 know that for the past several years we've been doing research into messaging that works with high-risk audiences and that also is appreciated by fire departments. We did several rounds of testing to come up with, in the end, 2 smoke alarm themes. One is this one, Where There Is Love, There Are Smoke Alarms, and we are also supporting a prior NFPA theme, Smoke Alarms, A Sound You Can Live With. Part of the work plan for 2015 is to create a materials generator of tools you can customize to bring these themes forward. But as far as I know, this may be the first time we've used the Where There Is Love, There Is Smoke Alarms in any resource, Peg, so please show us what you got.
Okay, thank you, Tim. If you'll run just about 30 seconds of this one.
Did you know that most home fires that kill people
Okay, thank you, Tim. And the next slide. So we have received some feedback, and really what this does is it reinforces that these videos will help supplement, repeat the most important message. Next slide. And currently there is some pre- and post-testing that is going on. Greg Rogers is currently involved where they developed 10 questions for each video and have done some pre- and post-testing in West Pierce and Spokane, some field testing. It's not scientific type testing. This is basically to help us determine that our messaging is correct. And there is more to come as funding is available. And I'd like to end this segment by just showing the promo video. You may have seen it, but it's only 30 seconds, and I thought it would be a good wrap-up to really what this app is all about. So, Tim, when you're ready, if you can run that 30-second promo video.
Peg, are you off mute?
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mary Kay and Peg Paul. We're getting closer to the time when you can ask some questions. If you have them, just a reminder, you can type them into the Q&A box. So we're getting close to that point. Tim, I'm going to ask you to advance these in just a moment. This is my opportunity to say that all of these efforts fit into a larger strategy. Fire is Everyone's Fight, which is being led by the U.S. Fire Administration. There is a web page for you to go. All of our materials are being tagged with this information. It is a way to capture people's attention and raise awareness that they have a role in preventing fires. So I encourage you to go there and become a part of Promoting Fire is Everyone's Fight, our ultimate goal to see these messages crop up everywhere across the country. Tim, if you can hear me, would you advance, please? And actually advance one more. I'm going to come back to the questions in a moment, thinking ahead that some folks may think that we're done. I want to point out additional resources for community risk reduction, and to say it this way. From the beginning, we have stipulated that home safety visits are one of the more effective prevention programs, at least as far as we are able to document. There are more, and lots of good case studies on our website at strategicfire.org for individual prevention programs that have documented success. But if somebody's going to do just one thing, this is one of the more effective ways that they can approach it. But homesafetyvisit.org is not just Vision 2020. It's Washington Fire Marshals. It is Friendship Veterans Fire Engine Association. I've already mentioned that Red Cross has a major initiative in this area and tools designed more specifically for their volunteers. As I said before, NFPA, and Mary Kay mentioned that as well, has a great tool and provides resources in this area, and have provided links for a lot of tools that people can use while they are out there. When you are using these tools, it'll help you get started. It will help you deliver messages, but in the end, whoever is actually conducting a home safety visit is the subject matter expert that people are going to listen to the most. I want to call attention to a variety of courses at the National Fire Academy that relate specifically to community risk reduction, where you'll find a lot of information on home safety visits, but the broader issue of community risk reduction and what I said earlier about that integrated approach. If you just go to this website for the National Fire Academy, it gives you an opportunity to type in keywords about community risk reduction, where it will bring up a number of courses where community risk reduction is emphasized. I highly recommend it because when we offer training, we can give people an awareness, we can raise awareness, we can teach a little bit, but it's nothing like attending a more in-depth class. And we always like to promote those at the National Fire Academy when we're doing these. Those classes, incidentally, will be posted on our webpage. Also want to give a shout out to the International Fire Service Training Association, IFSTA, and Resource One site, where we have online training that's available for free. You can get there via strategicfire.org, a link that will take you to IFSTA Resource One, and free training on model measures for evaluating prevention programs, and a familiarization with community risk reduction concepts. So I'm going to ask you now to back up, Tim, to the question portion of it and help me or help us to answer any questions that come up. I see one myself. Are we able to get a copy of this presentation emailed to us for future reference? If you send us an email at info, I think there's an email on our webpage, but this is also being recorded, Tim, is it not? And it will be posted on the iChief so that you can get the information there as well. Is that right, Tim?
That's correct. Yeah, I'll share the link in the chat box areas, ifc.org/webinars. Okay.
Are there other questions that are popping up somewhere where I can't see them, Tim?
Perhaps. I know we had one comment that came through from Phil Marchand. He said, we at SCFR have had a home safe program in place for 2 years, and it has led to the install of many smoke detectors as well as great community outreach. It's kind of a comment more than a question. And there's one question from Norman Mitchell. It says, should smoke alarms be installed in rental properties and or apartment spaces through this program?
It's a good question, and let me say it depends. Different jurisdictions handle it in different ways. Some, and depending on what your local regulations say, require the landlord to be the person responsible for putting in smoke alarms. tenants responsible for checking them and alerting the landlord when smoke alarms are not operating. There's a lot more going on underneath the surface there with those issues. So I've seen it both ways. Fire departments that say we're going to pursue the landlord and make them install smoke alarms. Others who say we're not leaving this property without providing them with smoke alarms. I don't care what the law says. And even some in between where they say we're going to put up one so that you've got some protection and follow up with the landlord. So there's no easy answer for that other than it is a policy question that's actually, I think, addressed in the guide, Mary Kay, to talk about guidance for local fire departments, but in the end, that is a local decision. Is that fair to say, Mary Kay?
Yes. Am I off mute?
You're off mute.
Oh, good. Okay. Correct. We do go into that. We do stress that it's a local decision. It's a great, when you're doing that upfront planning, it's one of those really important questions to discuss. My own personal view is sometimes the folks who live in rental properties are at highest of the high risk, and if we fail to help them, we may be missing some of the people who need our help the most. So I always encourage people doing this work to be as tenacious as possible, and we had a great discussion about it in Fort Lauderdale with the 5 teams I was telling you about earlier. The hope is that we get into these homes and we leave them better off than when we got there. So I think that's a question that we'll be wrestling with for a long, long time. But when in doubt, we were talking about when in doubt, install and then kind of deal with it later. But in truth, it's going to be a local decision.
You know, there's another issue here, and I'm going to use this opportunity to call attention to it. And that is, part of what Mary Kay is talking about is it's not just a matter of going in, slamming up some smoke alarms and leaving. There's an educational component that goes along with that. But there's a great anecdotal example from Tualatin Valley in Oregon where, oddly enough, they were focused on rental properties. That's where their fire deaths were occurring. Long story short, they went into a complex where a fire death had occurred and made sure that there were working smoke alarms in every unit because about half of them had been disabled. 6 months later, went back in because of another fire, fortunately not a fire death, and discovered that half of the smoke alarms were again disabled. So it's not just a matter of smoke alarms being put up and expecting that they're going to continue to be working. They had to deal with the issue of nuisance alarms and what people should do about nuisance alarms. In this particular case, they developed a relationship with the apartment multifamily housing managers and changed their paradigm, for lack of a better way to describe it, where the renters who felt that if they had a false alarm and they would be evicted, to reverse that thinking and by agreement telling them if you have a nuisance alarm you will not be evicted. If you disabled your smoke alarm, you may very well be evicted. So this rental property issue has a lot of different slices, but underlying it is not just the visit itself, but education long-term to make sure that people are doing what they can to prevent fires and to make sure that those smoke alarms are working over a period of time. I'm going to pause briefly. Tim, are there other questions that I'm not seeing there?
Yes. There were a couple nice comments about the American Sign Language video sample, and then there was a follow-up question about it. It says, in the video, do you go over smoke detectors that are available for persons who are deaf or hard of hearing? That is important to the audience. Whereas there was,
I'm going to ask for help because I can't honestly remember on that video whether or not there was mention of those. Perhaps Peg Paul or even Peg Carson could help remind me. Did we stress the smoke alarm issue for those who are deaf or hard of hearing?
This is Peg Carson, and we did not. There are some other great resources that even visual video that helps explain the technology and what's available. But we did not cover that. We were trying to stick with the 3-minute that was for all audiences and then do the translation. But I think that is something that we would want to make sure everybody knows about the other resources and the other technology.
And if I may, Jim and Peg, this is Mary Kay. In the guide, the written guide, under resources, you'll notice that Oklahoma State University and IFSTA is called out. Nancy Trench has done a lot of work reaching those who are deaf and hard of hearing and have resources through IFSTA. So you'll be able to access some of those through our partner.
It's an excellent point, and
it is, yeah.
Peg, I heard you loud and clear. As we build these tools out, perhaps that's something that we can look at. Anything else on the list, Tim, that I'm not seeing?
1 second.
Jim, could I just mention something that has been coming up a lot, and I would love to put it on the radar for our group here. We are learning that many people in our audience do not understand the real basics, things we might take for granted that they would all know by now. And the specific one that seems to keep coming up, I just got an email about this from a friend of mine, believe it or not, whose alarm was chirping, and she did not know that that meant it was about to lose power. She thought it was the sign that it was working. So I think as we move forward with all this work, and especially if you're in homes and having that one-on-one conversation, many of our folks out there have said they've gone into these high-risk homes and they've actually heard the alarms chirping and had the residents say, oh, this just is telling me that my device is working. So I just think that that whole issue of how we educate and really getting into some of the basics is so important, and these home visits give us a wonderful opportunity to do some of that.
I'll echo that, Mary Kay, and say that once you start tugging on that string, you know, the danger is unrolling the whole ball because there's so many different sub-issues. That is certainly an important one, but it calls attention to the strategy to work, a national public education / social marketing campaign, with the first priority being working smoke alarms. So these videos and the Home Safety Visit Guide are not the end, they're the beginning. And Peg Carson said a long time ago, you know, at the end of the day, you can only get so much into a video, you can only command people's attention for so long, but it is a great opportunity for you to provide them with information. So we'll keep building our tools as we go along. In the end, I'm guessing that there's a lot of local expertise that can help answer questions like this when you're actually out doing visits. Hopeful, but it's a good point for us to keep in mind. Tim, anything else showing up on the list?
Yes, there's one question about community risk reduction efforts. It says, what are some successful strategies that you've used to involve firefighters who traditionally have stayed in the station except for emergency responses in home visits and other community risk reduction efforts?
That one, talk about a ball of string that you start tugging on. It's a very complex issue. So both ends of the spectrum are a place like Wilmington, North Carolina, that the firefighters there, fire officers in particular, have really embraced community risk reduction and have done a great job of developing strategies, not just home safety visits, but developing other strategies that have you know, produced some measurable results. They've got a good relationship with the firefighters. They have involved the firefighters in design and decision making. I think it is a good model to use. The other end of the spectrum, you know, are organizations where due to workload or other issues that the firefighters are not able to conduct home safety visits. In those cases, sometimes you're looking for partners. But as far as specific strategies to get firefighters on board, I think it boils down to relationships. I think it boils down to them seeing the need for conducting programs like this. And in my opinion, and I've tried to get this in different departments around the country myself, faced difficulties to say the least, giving them some control and ability to manage the programs at their level. You're empowering station leadership to make decisions. It's a very critical part of a community risk reduction strategy. I'm not sure I'm doing justice to answering the question. If you want to know more, then send us an email via strategicfire.org, and I'll try and answer that one better. Anything else, Tim?
One more from N. Watska. She says, we've been awarded a small grant that may not immediately address our needs. Do you recommend doing as much as possible per resident? And then, for instance, she said, example, 3 detectors, 3 code detectors, or is it better to stress the resources to more residences? Per resident.
Can I speak to this one, Jim? It's Mary Kay.
Well, go ahead, Mary Kay.
That's a $64,000 question. Again, in the guide, we stress that it will be a local decision. Personally, I think our minimum codes in place, NFPA 72, are there for a reason, and they recommend a certain level of minimum protection. I like the fact that if we install enough alarms to bring a home up to code, we know we've done the job according to what our best practice and science tells us. My worry is if you only install 1 alarm and leave, and perhaps the alarm isn't in the place that would have been most useful, you know, we would have a hard time justifying the decision not to install it to code. That's my personal view, but in the guide, I have to say, we've tried to, you know, emphasize the fact that you're going to have to wrestle that back home at the ranch, really.
And I'll add to that, Mary Kay, by saying it has already occurred to you all, I'm sure. I have 10 alarms. Do I cover 10 homes, or do I cover 3 homes? That's basically the question, and Mary Kay's already pointed out it's a challenging decision, a policy question you have to answer at the local level, because you may not, in fact, be required to bring people up to modern code, even though that's the standard. If NFPA 72 is adopted in your jurisdiction, you know, as far as what adequate coverage really means. But in the end, there is debate about how much you need to do, especially with a smoke alarm installation program, and whether or not it's a couple of alarms and moving on and covering more houses, reducing risk on a greater scale. So it may sound mealy-mouthed, but bottom line is you have to make that decision at the local level, facing all of your local circumstances. What else is on the list, Tim?
That's all we've got right now. Wait, one last one asking, have you thought of captioning videos so hard of hearing people can understand them as well?
Well, yes, we have, and that is why each one of these apps is actually, I'm going to say it wrong, but you have American Sign Language insert in each one of the videos. So I think it's an excellent point. I'm noting the one about special alarms for those who are deaf or hard of hearing. So I hope that answers it.
Jim, this is Peg Carson.
Yes, Peg.
I think that it was not, I think that Peg Paul Associates did look at closed captioning, and that was not something that could be done with this application, with using an app. And she can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's why we went this way.
Yeah, actually, it was the closed captioning that would have been difficult as an app. That's more of a broadcast type tool, and that's what eventually led us to go with the American Sign Language versus just having subtitles.
Thanks, you guys. Anything else, Tim?
No, sir, that's it.
I see a comment from Joanne. Appreciate it, Joanne, Tualatin Valley. You guys have certainly got a lot of experience in this area, so education about why the alarms are there is critical. So, Tim, I'm going to ask you to advance one slide just to remind folks. Here's a common mistake I'm seeing already. HomeSafetyVisit.org doesn't have an S in it. If you type visits, it's going to take you to the wrong place or not at all. And if you will advance one more slide, Tim, this is my opportunity to thank everybody in the universe I'm a smart aleck to make a point, but the point in this case is there are a lot of people involved in these projects. If I haven't emphasized it enough, we're really grateful that folks from different areas of the country, different nonprofits, different fire departments are willing to offer time, different people are willing to offer time, but for this particular case, this particular part of it, the Washington State Association of Fire Marshals, it really was one of the pioneers in this, and we're grateful for our relationship with them. The Friendship Veterans Fire Engine Association there in Alexandria, Virginia. And it would be wrong of me to say, even though we did use some private sector dollars to bolster some of these, Mary Kay mentioned we've received some additional funding from Motorola Foundation where we can start adding to some of these tools, that mostly the funding for Vision 2020 and these other nonprofits, these other associations, comes from the Assistance to Firefighter grants. So we're very grateful to them, and to all of the individual people, Peg Paul and Associates, Mary Kay, Peg Carson, Ed Camo, Bill Kehoe, Sandy Fasinoli, the folks on our executive team who've got tentacles out a lot of different ways and add value to this, the partners Red Cross and NFPA and U.S. Fire Administration, our relationship with IFSTA and the National Fire Academy, and many more. But especially a shout out to Greg Rogers, Steve Snyder, the folks at West Pierce, and Peg Paul at Spokane, Washington, who are doing some pre and post testing, Tammy Peavy, Nancy Trench, you know, the folks who've been working on this, and our good friend Becky Booker, who probably knows more and has done more, as Mary Kay said earlier. There are many, many people out there doing great work, and I can't remember them all. I can't mention them all. But please know that we are very grateful for everybody adding their shoulder to the wheel, and this is the beginning, not the end. So thanks, everybody, for a wonderful day. Panelists, if you will stay with us, and Bill Kehoe, if you will stay on the line, we're going to close down the webinar. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.